As you can see, I now have a rough edge on the bottom here. This rough edge needs to be, well, two things need to be done on the final product. First, this edge, these edges need to be in a straight line. And also they need to be symmetrical. So I need to remove the same amount of material from this side as this side to keep it even. Now what I'm going to start by doing is taking off just a couple of these little lumps. Then what I'm going to do, in order to make sure I remove the same amount of material from each side, is I'm going to, when I move it to the grinder, what I'm going to do is take off, to move at a constant speed, and also to count the passes. I'm going to do 3 passes on this side, and I'll flip it around, do 3 passes on this side, keeping the speed consistent, speed and pressure. If I start on this side, I will finish on this side. What you don't want to do is to just grind it down until it's a clean edge in all these areas. You want to, if you need to grind it down farther, you have to grind the entire surface here and here to clean up a single point that's still rough. Now these edges have been cleaned up somewhat. what I need to do is to round this sharp angle that's on the top of the edge, because when the bow bends, if there's a sharp angle right there, that point on the corner is going to take a great deal of force, and that is likely to form a little micro crack, which will then grow larger and larger and larger till the limb fails. Now, if you notice on this factory edge on top, this factory edge is rounded. That's done to make the blade last longer. When the bandsaw goes around the flywheel, it has to bend thousands of times. So they round the factory edge so that it relieves the stress. There's no corner to take all that stress and form a crack. I need to do the same thing on the cut I just made. So what I'm going to do is, to start with, I'm just going to take some light passes just to take that corner off. Both corners, top and bottom. Just a light pass to relieve each corner. Now I've done the rough grinding. I've roughed in a flat line across the bottom of the limb, both sides, and I roughly rounded the corners to relieve them. Now what I'm going to do, now that I've roughed in this edge and relieved the corners on the heavy wheel, I'm going to move over to the lighter wheel and refine this into a nice rounded edge. I need to make these edges as smooth as I can get them. Nice and smooth will ensure that the bend distributes the force evenly across the face. So now it's time for quite a bit of elbow grease. Sandpaper. I'm going to start with some 80 grit sandpaper. And so what I'm going to do, if I do this by hand, what's going to happen is that it's going going to push into the sandpaper and into my hand, and it'll be a, you know, somewhat rounded sanding job. And this will help remove any of the roughness that the grinding wheels left behind. After the 80 grit, I'll move on to some 180 grit and make it nice and smooth.